Coming to you from the University of Minnesota, Rochester, our town.
This is Danielle Till with Our Town. I'm filling in for Nicole. Last month, 6 million people around the world participated in the global youth climate strike. Salma, Abdi, and Rick Morris were part of a group who marched here in Rochester, and they join me today to tell us about local efforts to make Rochester more sustainable. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, I want all the details because I was actually in Ireland when the youth climate strike occurred in Rochester, and there was a lot of people out there. So give me a little bit of background on why you two are involved and what does it pertain, like what is the youth climate strike?
So I'm currently a sophomore at Century High School, and I really got involved because both my parents are immigrants from Somalia. And when they talk back to people back home, they hear about what's going on, like the droughts and everyone slowly dying of famine and things that are preventable. And also, it's my childhood right now, and I'm fighting for things that adults in power should fight for. Or I'm worried about what I can do in my future. I'm worried because I want to fulfill my dreams. I want to have a future. I want to go to college, and those are just things I really want to do, just like every single other youth member.
I feel the passion in your response and appreciate it so much. Rick, the Sierra Club, what is that, and why are you involved in the youth climate strike? Why does it matter to you?
Sure. The Sierra Club is a big national nonprofit that we focus on protecting the environment and connecting people to the environment, because we know that if the environment's healthy, then people are healthy, and the opposite is also true. If the environment's not healthy, people suffer, and often it's the most marginalized people, the poorest people, who suffer the worst and first. So here in Minnesota and in Rochester, we've been working for years to commit the city to 100% renewable energy, and more recently it's been the honor of my life to support the work of students like Salma and her peers to really raise a clear and urgent call for the adults in the room and our political leaders to take real climate action.
This is a big, large-scale global movement. What are some things that people can be doing on a local level in our schools, homes, workplace, and communities?
Okay, so I know like people have been saying this for years and years, recycle. Yes, it may seem little, but for example, if you recycle one plastic bottle and every single day you recycle all the plastic you use and everything in aluminum you use, then people around you will start doing it. And if people around you start doing it, by the end of the year, it'll be like tons and tons of pounds.
That's awesome, because my children do see me recycling and they know, well, cardboard needs to go in there. So that is a really good tip. What about you, Rick?
Yeah, and I think Salma brings up a great point. We need to establish a culture of sustainability, and every little action does matter a lot to get us to that point where all of us are thinking about how we can protect our planet. But at the end of the day, this climate strike was at City Hall. Salma gave a speech on the steps of City Hall because we need our politicians to take real action. All the soda bottles in the world aren't going to add up to solving climate change, but we need our government to act to regulate the 100 companies that are responsible for 71% of greenhouse gas emissions. So at the end of the day, we need to create this culture in our own households and in our schools, but we need to really lean on the decision makers to transform the way we turn on the lights, the way we drive our cars, and the way we heat our homes.
Yeah, like write letters to them. If one person writes and then multiple people write it, if your entire class writes letters to the politician, they need to make some action.
It is really neat to see youth get so involved in stuff like this. So the question is, can you talk about 100% renewable goal and why it's a big deal for local Sierra Club?
Sure. Well, we know that electricity makes up the bulk of the greenhouse gas emissions in around the world, here in Minnesota, and Rochester is a part of that as well. We get a lot of the bulk of our power from a coal plant in Becker, Minnesota. So by committing the city to 100% renewable energy, we can take that first giant chunk out of the climate change problem, and when we flip on the lights, we can know we're a part of the solution instead.
That's perfect. You talked about flipping on lights, RPU. They got to care about this at some point, right? So how are they changing things or adapting to concerns that this group shares?
Sure. Well, because of the urgency and the moral clarity with which students like Salma and community members over the last several years have spoken with, just this past summer, the Rochester Public Utilities Board committed Rochester to transition to 100% renewable energy by 2030. So over the next like 11, 12 years, there's going to be infrastructure planning, there's going to be new policies adopted, but we will be greenhouse gas neutral when it comes to electricity. So we're really excited.
Do you think that's feasible by 2030?
There's over 130 cities around just the United States that have already made this commitment.
Okay.
And you know, 11 years, on the one hand, it's almost too long. We know the IPCC report of the UN talking about how much time we have to respond to this climate crisis just gives us till 2030. So the urgency is there. It's the right thing to do. And frankly, we have the technology. Solar, wind, energy storage, using hydropower, using geothermal to heat and cool. These are all proven technologies that have been around. And there's tons of studies floating around that it's not a matter of technology, it's just a matter of political will.
Now, how can people that are obviously watching this right now get involved?
So for students, I'd say really would call Instagram, Twitter, would call the Minnesota Climate Strike really has an Instagram, and they post a lot of things. And even right now, we're working on more and more things to make sure everyone is aware of what's going on. And adults, there's a Facebook account, there's different organizations.
Perfect.
Sure, yeah, so anytime you see the students striking, I think it's our duty to support them, join them, stand in solidarity for their futures. And then one of the most important things you can do is let the decision makers know. Call up the mayor, call up your city council member, call up your state senator, tell them that climate change is important to you and you want them to act on it. We really hope that this climate strike can inspire people to make changes in their own lives, but to stay engaged. This problem is only going to be solved if there's a lot of people demanding action, because it's all too easy to stick with the status quo. You know, staying with what you know doesn't require any action, doesn't require any will, but at the end of the day, everything's going to change unless we change it first. And if you want to get really involved, the Sierra Club meets the second Monday of every month. November 11th at 125 Live at 6:30 is the next meeting, and it's open. Anyone who cares about this issue and wants to get involved should come on down.
Okay, perfect. Thank you both so much.
Thanks, Danielle.
Our Town is brought to you in part by the following amazing people and organizations:
the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota,
and the members of KSMQ Public Television. Thank you.
Be sure to stick around. We have more great stories coming up next. I dropped in on the Empty Bowls, great fundraiser for Channel 1 Food Bank, by the way, and Nicole catches up with Superintendent Muñoz to get us well informed for the Rochester Public School Bond Referendum election. Up first, we take a peek inside Castle Community in this week's Our Culture segment.
This is the Castle, former armory and former senior center in Rochester. We're downtown Rochester in what has been converted in a historic building to a civic experience for people of Rochester and visitors.
I'm Nora Anderson. I'm the Executive Director of Threshold Arts here at the Castle, and we oversee all of the artist programs and community activation of the building.
I'm Scott Haas, one of the owners of the Castle and also owner of Collective Books and Records.
When you walk into the Castle, you've got a choice to go up or down the stairs. Downstairs will take you into Cameo Restaurant, so a locally owned new restaurant concept here in Rochester, and serving lunch and dinner 7 days a week, brunch on Sundays. But then up onto the second floor, you're going to find 5 additional tenants: artist studios, a used book and record store, coffee and juice bar, we have a yoga studio, and then an art retail store, as well as several artist studio spaces, so artists making their work. All of that surrounds a big indoor public commons, a place where people can hang out, read a book, play a game, have a meeting, do some work. Really, sky's the limit, and we invite people to come in and spend their time here.
And we have a third floor for events, an art gallery, and a community studio for people to book and have meetings. When we purchased the building, we purchased from the city of Rochester, and we promised we would make it a civic building. So it would be something that the public could access, whether you're a Rochester resident or somebody from or visiting our community. So So we really want it to be an open place where people can come, spend a few hours, have a good time, and maybe see or learn something they haven't experienced before.
All with an arts and culture focus. So with Threshold Arts managing a lot of the programs and the community spaces, art is at the forefront of a lot of everything that we're doing here.
About 104 years ago, this was built as an armory. So different branches of the armed forces would use this space, and they used it for about 60 years. And the city of Rochester bought it and turned it into the senior center. And for 40 years, it served a great purpose at the senior center. And when 125 Live was built, the city decided to put it up for sale. And there was a couple iterations of sale and lease proposals and some wonderful ideas. We just happened to be the lucky ones who won and were able to turn it into what it is. A couple of my favorite stories are people who used to come here 45 years ago for dances on Friday nights, or actually worked here when this was an active armory. My dad reported when he was in the Army Reserve at this location, which was really neat, and I didn't even know until we'd purchased the building. It's fun to see people enjoying our space. It's really fun to see them enjoying it the way we expected. It's even more fun to see them enjoying it in a way we had not expected, or different uses that we would have never dreamt up. So it's really people coming into this building and they have that jaw drop or the eyes wide open moment, and they start exploring, and we tell them to explore the space and enjoy and have them linger, and they tell their friends, and it's a really interesting place to explore and enjoy.
I think seeing people come in here with their ideas and feel like it's their home, to say, you know, in the same breath, this doesn't feel like Rochester, but I really feel at home here, is something that is unique, and I think that we're hoping for is to create something new, but that people feel like it is theirs. It's not ours. We're here for everybody, and welcome everybody in, and new ideas that come with them.
Okay, you Rochesterites. Or is it Rochesterians? Rochesterines? Maybe Rochesterers? Well, you know what we mean. Connect with us, connect with each other. #OurTown.
There's too many people to not have people who you love. And I'm a little bit rough around the edges. And I'm a little bit desperate.
The Rochester Area Foundation's monthly choice grants continue to provide funding to local organizations. The nominees for October are Chatfield Brass Band, Choral Arts Ensemble, Lanesboro Arts Center, Rochester Music Guild, and the Southeastern Minnesota Youth Orchestra. Go to rochesterarea.org to vote for which one you think should get the $1,500 award for October. Runners-up will receive $100 each. Voting is open now until Friday, October 25th at 5 p.m. Congratulations goes out to Olmsted County for receiving their AAA credit rating, the highest possible, from both Moody's Investors Service and S&P Global Ratings. According to County Board Chair Jim Beer, only 3% of counties in the nation receive this designation. This credit rating allows the county to borrow money on more favorable terms, saving taxpayers money. Pull out those miniskirts and tie-dye t-shirts and boogie out to the History Center of Olmsted County for the opening of their latest traveling exhibit, Coming of Age in the 1968 Generation. Light refreshments are available, and Driven by Rhythm will be providing the tunes from 6 to 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, October 22nd. Admission is $5 or free for members. More information at olmstedhistory.com. Trunk or Treat, its clever twist on an old tradition. On Saturday, October 26th, visit Decorated Automobile Trunks and pick up some goodies at the family-friendly Halloween celebrations in the parking lots of St. Paul Lutheran Church from 1 to 3 p.m. and Christ Our Rock Church 3 to 5 p.m. Hot dogs and other refreshments will also be served. There are plenty of other Halloween celebrations around town for kids of all ages. Check out experiencesrochestermn.com to find out your favorite. Coming up next, I had the chance to drop in on the Empty Bowls After Hours event for this week's Walkabout segment.
This is
Danielle Till with Our Town Walkabout, and I'm here with Virginia Merritt with the Channel 1 Regional Food Bank.
Yes.
For empty bowls.
Yes.
Can you tell me more about it?
This is our signature fundraising event. This is the 15th year. We're here tonight at the After Hours event. This is the first time we've done an evening portion. So we raise awareness about hunger and then fundraise for food for those who need it.
Okay, tell me a little bit about the stats related to hunger. Why is it so necessary to have an event like this?
So 1 in 10 Minnesotans don't have enough to eat. And 3,500 people in Olmsted County come to our food shelf every month. So that's 3,500 people every month who don't know where their next meal is going to come from.
That's quite a big number.
It is a big number. Hunger is often silent. 74% of our clients are working. So I don't think that people always realize that people who are working and seem like they maybe have it all together do have a need. Rents are high in Rochester. Cost of daycare is high. Food is the last bill that people pay because it's not a bill. You go out and get it. And so there is a big need, and we're proud to be able to fill that gap.
I see beautiful bowls over there at that table. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Yes, so people paint bowls all year long, and then those are donated to this event so that everyone who comes can take one as a memento. So keep it in your kitchen, in your office. It helps us remember that not everyone has food all the time and that we should help those who need it.
Can you tell us a little bit about the bowls? What's your favorite one so far?
I love this one with the owl. It says listen music. I think that's pretty cool. And this green one is gorgeous. But they're all local, they're all handmade, and a lot of the potters actually are in attendance here tonight.
This is Danielle Till with Our Town Walkabout, and I was scoping out the bowls, and I found my favorite one. It's teal. The Rochester Public School District is asking voters to support a bond referendum this fall. Our Town's host, Nicole, had a chance to visit with Superintendent Michael Muñoz about the details. Let's find out more.
On November 5th, there's going to be a bond referendum election, and Michael Muñoz, Superintendent of the Rochester Public Schools, is joining me today to talk to us about what we need to know before hitting the polls. Welcome to Our Town.
Yep, glad to be here.
So let's just start off by telling us a little bit about what the need for this bond referendum is.
Well, this whole process started out looking at our capacity issue. Currently, our middle schools are at 99% capacity, and elementaries are at 98% capacity. So we're just really running out of room, and our enrollment continues to grow. In the last 5 years, we've grown 1,000 students, and based on the housing studies and the data that we've reviewed, we're anticipated to grow another 1,200 students in the next 5 years.
That's a lot of growth in just the last 5 years. So
yes.
Certainly thinking ahead about what you're going to be needing in the future. So what's going to be the investment for each of the proposed projects under the referendum?
Well, it's a two-question referendum. Question one is $171.4 million. And with that, we're going to build a new middle school, build a brand new elementary, and then we have two smaller middle schools that we're going to rebuild and build them up so they have a capacity of 720 students.
And which middle schools are those?
That is Bishop Elementary and Longfellow Elementary, so they're both really small schools. So we'll build at Bishop, we're going to build a brand new school on that property, and then once the students move in, we'll tear down the old building. And in Longfellow, we'll either do that, or we're also in conversation with Parks and Rec, and we may do build the school just south of where it currently exists, and then do a land swap. We would give them the Longfellow building and the land that goes with that.
So along for plans for building more schools and to meet the projected capacity, what are the plans to talk about staffing and operations of the new schools? And
one of the good things, our largest funding source is based on our per students, and as our numbers increase with students, we get more funding from the state, so that'll help overcome a lot of the operating costs. But there are going to be some additional costs that is additional administration, clerical staff at the new buildings that we'll have to factor in as we work on our budget in the next few years.
And the school board just recently anticipated that there is going to be actually a reduction in the tax levy by a little bit, but it's also contingent on this referendum. How will that impact?
Yeah, we just at a recent meeting, at this time of the year, you set your maximum tax levy, and because of the Century and Riverside being paid off, going off the books, our maximum was set at a decrease of 2%, which is about $1.1 million reduction. That's prior to the referendum, so if we weren't doing a referendum, then our portion of the property tax would drop 2%.
And for those people that might not know, what is the difference between a levy and a bond?
Well, a bond referendum, really the district doesn't have a lot of options for funding to build new schools. We do get some state funding to repair, like to replace a roof or to redo a parking lot, but we don't have a funding source to build new. So that forces districts to go out to your voters and ask them to support a referendum so you can build new facilities.
So it's like capital improvements.
Yes.
And the levies would cover what?
Well, the bond referendum, the levy itself just covers your operating costs and some of your capital as well.
So if the referendum passes, what would be the timeline for these projects?
Well, we're looking that 2022 is when we would actually open up the schools. There's a lot, in November, if it passes, then you have to put out bids to get contractors and architects, and so it does take some time, but we're projected 2022 when we'd open the doors for the new facilities.
Wow, so those new students would start in 2022. What happens if the referendum doesn't pass?
Well, if it doesn't pass, we'll have to have a conversation with the school board, and most likely we would go out for another one. We would review what their original ask was. Do we need to pare it down a little bit? Do we need to change some of the projects a little bit? But really, we would have to build something. We're just at, we've done boundaries, we've moved preschools out. We're just to a point where we have to build something.
For someone who may not be completely sort of ingrained in what's happening with the public school system, but is just interested and wants to know, how to approach the questions when they come up on the ballot, what should they be asking themselves?
Well, I would encourage them, if they haven't been following, to go to our district website, and up on the top there's a referendum link. Once they open that up, there's a wealth of information there. All the presentations that the task force presented to the school board is in there. There's a lot of factual information, and then there's a question and answer section. So there's really good information for the voter to get informed.
And there are opportunities for early voting, is that correct?
Yes, it's opened up a couple weeks ago at the Edison building from 8 a.m. to 4:45. They can come in and vote early and don't have to wait to stand in line on the 5th. And I heard yesterday that we were a little over 300 individuals have taken advantage of that already, so that'd be a great opportunity to come to the Edison building at 615 7th Street Southwest, and it's about a 5-minute process. I did that myself, and in and out in 5 minutes.
Yeah, and it'll run right through November 4th, and then the referendum official day will be the 5th.
Yes.
Fantastic. So the bond covers how long is that period of time?
We'll take it out for 20 years, okay. So we'll take 20 years to pay it off.
Okay, and then the school will be paying that back over the 20-year period.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
Yes.
Is there anything else that the community should know about this referendum?
Well, like I said, I just encourage them to go to the website and see what we're asking for. We're asking, we're going to address school safety as well with that funding, and then
specifically, what about school safety?
Well, right now, not all of our schools have a secured entrance, which means once you get buzzed in, the only place you can go is to the office. So we want to have all our schools have a secured entrance. And then another key point of the safety is right now, a majority of our buildings, when the fire alarm goes off, we hear a sound. But if I'm a student or staff that can't hear, I don't know what's going on. So the new systems now have different colors of light that blink to let you know. If I can't hear, it lets you see what's going on. So that's another part of the safety concern that we're trying to address.
I guess what would be one of the biggest challenges you're sort of foreseeing as if the referendum does pass?
Well, the challenge is this is several projects we'll be doing all at the same time. Typically, we usually do 1 or 2 big projects over the summer, and but what we do, we hire a contract manager to help manage the project. So that's most likely what we'll do in this case.
And are there? I'm thinking from like a student perspective, any opportunities to help in sort of the transitions as students are moving to new schools, or just moving into expanded schools?
No, I don't think, we typically don't have students physically help us with the moves and stuff.
Oh,
but
not physically helping with the moves, but just, just informing students, there's a lot sort of for the community and for parents to know, but just kind of working with students as they're sort of going through this change.
Yeah, actually, before I came here, I was at a meeting with a group of middle school and high school students and gave the same presentation about the referendum that I'm doing out in the community to try to educate them on what we're asking for, why we're asking for it, and so they can be informed as well. on what the district is doing.
And do they have any opinions about what all this change?
No, I think they're sitting in those schools. They know we're full, and they understand the need for it, and they're just very supportive that we're trying to address the need that they see every day in their schools.
Are there other ways for people to get involved in this process?
Well, I do know there is a Vote Yes group that's organized, and I know they're always looking for volunteers to help them with that. Obviously that's something the district stays away from. Our job in this is to provide factual information, and that's all we do, but there is a group that's organized that are always willing to take volunteers.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for watching today. I hope you learned a little bit more about our great community. This is Danielle Till sitting in for Nicole on Our Town, the show about Rochester. Our Town is produced by KSMQ Public Television, nonprofit, non-commercial. Please help pay for this programming by making a personal contribution at ksmq.org. Thank you.
You can access more information about KSMQ on Facebook and at ksmq.org.